That's okay.
Okay, carry on.
Hello and welcome to week 10 of group and organisational communication. This is our last teaching week. And as I said earlier, I'm hoping to end strong with a good discussion about the intersection of communication and technology. This morning, I really want to focus on social media as one of those kind of areas that the technology has given us, and look at this human compulsion to communicate. Essentially, I want to set out an argument with respect to social media for you and hopefully deliver that proof. But in terms of the intersection with group and organization, I want to set you a couple of questions throughout the lecture this morning and have you make those links and generate a discussion. So we'll see how we go. Let me just start with my PowerPoint. I'm able to do that, yes. Okay. Excuse me.
We make you.
Going to do it on full screen today. Let's see if I can work this out. Okay. I'm still not perfect with Zoom. Still all over the place, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be pressing at what moment. All right, so I'm going to go to slideshow and go from the beginning. Okay, here we go. Yes, so here's our, well, here's what I call the topic, technology and communication. But as I said, I particularly want to focus on social media and set out a particular discussion that I hope will be illuminating for you. So here's my first slide. I'm just going to have to minimize something here in order to see it properly myself. Okay, so here's my first slide. So I think we have a particular problem, and here is my argument. I'm calling it the social media problem square. In part, I was inspired by a Netflix documentary that I saw earlier this week called The Social Dilemma. And so I've got some material from someone who spoke in that documentary. And that's I mean, what they present is a particular argument, but I have a particular argument here. I've set it out in this way. I'm calling it the social media problem square. As I said, I don't know if it's a particularly novel argument. Other people may have made it, but I'm making it in my way. So I think one of the issues with social media generally, and I'm starting out by saying I think we have a problem with it currently, is that we have this intersection of issues. We have, as you may have come across in business studies and management courses that you've done, any students that have done courses like that, the concept of the bad apple in an organization or in a group, this idea that this particular fruit is rotten and it infects the other apples. It has a negative effect on the other apples. So in business, there's also this idea of the bad barrel, where the whole environment itself constructs a negative space in which anything that goes inside it ends up becoming tainted by it. And some people say that about politics, for example, that no matter who goes into it with the best intentions, there are so many ways in which they end up doing nefarious things or unintentionally bad things because the whole institution or the whole environment that politics sets itself up in is one that kind of creates those problems. The third and fourth parts of my square are that the third one is social media self-perpetuates its value. And I think that's something that we may have spoken about in different ways throughout this course, the idea that through likes and shares, it justifies itself as being important and being worthy and then gets transmitted. And then the fourth part of the argument that social media is designed to be addictive is really part of the argument that comes from this social dilemma documentary. So this is my proposal. We can call it Rajendra's social media problem square, if you like. I might own it. And I'll see if I can prove it to you throughout the course of the lecture with various parts of the discussion. So as I said, here is my concern about where we are now. We have this space where everyone's connected in various ways, and then in the mix are these bad apples, and so I've used this illustration of the troll, and I know someone in one of the groups is doing a strategic communication project on cyberbullying, so this might be particularly interesting for you as a general kind of discussion around some of the issues. So I think we're in the midst of defining the value of social media. I'm not sure, I mean, people doing this course, many of you will be what are called digital natives, like you started using it and you've used it your whole lives, or you've gotten into it very early. For me, I was, at university first time around when we were just using email, and there were sites like MySpace to actually communicate with each other. I mean, Facebook was around, I'm not that old, but I didn't really get into it, and I got into it and then I left it because I didn't really like it. But I think even from early on, there was this concern that there are people out there who were just trying to stir up trouble or be negative. And obviously, as we've gone along, we've gotten into all kinds of problems. Today, we have issues with conversations around fake news, cyberbullying, trolling, and all kinds of other negative things that the internet and social media in particular and the communication platforms have produced. So that's where I'm starting. And so the first thing I'd like to do is to discuss the online personalities that are created when we use social media and communication technology. And secondly, I want to look at how it intersects with organization. If you see me looking across, it's because I'm reading some notes I've made on another small screen. Lastly, I want to say that I've actually done some work in media. My own research is in traditional media, because I worked as a journalist for 10 years and I was very interested in the way language operates in media. But outside of that, I've looked at the online environment and how it annotates this idea of professionalism. And secondly, I've done some writing about media philosophy, if you like, which I'm going to share with you really briefly in just one or two statements to see if you agree or disagree with me. All right, so I actually want to start the conversation quite early and stop myself from talking by asking how you would define the particular situations that are represented or annotated in these particular articles. So there are two articles. One is a Guardian newspaper article about teens and the levels of cyberbullying. This is a UK study. I think it was a few thousand teenagers that they interviewed. And the second picture, the one on the right with the black background, is a particular post from someone on Twitter, I believe. And so I just want to ask everyone in the room what they would define as going on in these particular situations. What are your points of view? Maybe I can ask it slightly differently. What is at the basis of cyberbullying in terms of the personalities involved? Have a quick read and then tell me what you think. I'm presuming people are on the other end of their connections. Let's see, who do we have in the room, Greer? Who would be someone who could give us an opinion on this? A viewpoint on it.
So can you ask the question again, please?
Yes, hi Rochelle, how are you? So I'm saying, how would you define what is happening in these situations? So this one on cyberbullying, what do you think is the kind of, what are the personalities that are involved in this particular exchange, would you say?
Oh, well, I think it's fully read it because it's very small on my screen. So I can't.
Okay, can you zoom in? I think you can pinch the screen and maybe
I'll try this now. Oh yes, I can zoom in. So I read any both or just?
Well, yeah, you can read them both, but just give me an opinion on this idea of cyberbullying.
Well, in my opinion, I think that cyberbullying happens because I guess the bully behind the computer has their personality. They have a low self-esteem,
Okay.
and the person that they are bullying probably tends to have something that they want. And I have been cyberbullied already in secondary school, and I have done nothing. It was just that a girl posted, I can't remember exactly what it was, and she was like, and she liked to fling her hair. Well, I have long hair, right? So she's like, and she liked to fling her hair, and that's not true. And they were just laughing and bullying me on the internet. And well, I reported it to the principal, and it stopped after that. But it just so happened that she has barely no hair, so that's why I said, you know, sometimes, most of the time, when somebody is bullying you, is because you have something they don't have.
Right.
So it stems from some kind of low self-esteem.
Okay, so you pinpoint it specifically to this idea that somebody is bullying as they would in a physical space because they have low self-esteem. But
yes, and most times it happens on the internet because I guess you're too coward to do it in person because we went in the same school. Why didn't tell me that to my face? You know?
Right. Okay. That does raise the second issue that I want to get to, and that is, to what degree is the interaction generated by a need to communicate, and to what degree does the platform create a space in which this kind of thing can happen?
Dr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Yeah, if I could comment on the two pictures, right? The first one, to me, it seems to be an incident of cyberbullying,
Yes.
right? And looking for whatever it is that they decide they would want to respond to, and in this case would be to cyberbully those persons with disabilities.
Yes. Do you also put it down to low self-esteem?
On the trolls or the person that they target?
The trolls themselves, yeah, the bullies.
Yes, there could be an element of low self-esteem because in terms of trying to make yourself appear bigger or better than you actually are. So because of that, there could be some element of low self-esteem in the trolls.
The individuals that were targeted, they say were targeted, so it's 24%, so it's almost a quarter of 13 to 18-year-olds, which is obviously shocking.
Yeah.
Down to gender, sexual orientation, race, religion, disability, or transgender identity. What does it say to you in reading that article that those are the specific elements that people pick on?
Well, they look for persons who are weaker than they are. Because even with physical bullies always look for the weaker person. The bullies in school always look for the weaker bullies. And I could be wrong on this, but I think there's the element that says that the bullies themselves, there's always something that would trigger them to be bullying other. Probably they may have been abused at home, they may have a bad child, bad parents, but there's something that they use and they manifest whatever they are experiencing in terms of being a bully.
Right. What was your answer to this idea that maybe the platforms themselves create a space that, if not promoting it, allows it to happen quite freely?
A safe space.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, a safe space in which bullies can come kind of be emboldened.
Yeah. Well, I think I agree with that because as we're on the Zoom platform, I remember quite recently here, I think we have been in Trinidad and Tobago, where there were persons who were sending out to use the word ads, saying that if it is you want someone to come and crash your Zoom class, let them know and they would crash the Zoom class. So there were these individuals who were looking to crash Zoom classes with obscenities and pornographic materials and stuff like that, right? So the internet, the social media does provide, I would say, a safe place. Now, I mean, they can be traced if it is that they need, that there's the desire to do that, but it does provide a safe place where it is these persons would figure that, hey, I can do this and probably retain some element of, you know, being hidden, not being found out. Yeah.
Yeah, they can kind of remain anonymous. Do you think there's anything that may be less than completely nefarious about people who want to crash a Zoom class? Could it just be about, you know, for kicks, for fun, or does it always center on something that's as negative as targeting with malicious intent, would you say?
Yeah, there can be, yeah, I'd agree that there can be just for the fun of it. You know, the opportunity is there. Let's have some kicks, let's have some fun. So yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, yeah. All right, thank you. What about this post on the right? So this is, I'm going to reveal who it's from. I mean, it's not a big secret or anything, but it comes from an article. Let me just read it really, or maybe you've read it. Have people read it?
Yes, I did. To me, it more or less the person being mentioned there, which is the lady being mentioned, she has some serious self-esteem issues. So I don't think, from reading it, I don't think it's cyberbullying really, but she has some issues with self-esteem.
Right. Do you get the idea? So what is an internet troll? Let me just ask you that.
An internet troll, now I could be wrong, but an internet troll is that person who sits behind their computer, goes through social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, and they look for persons to target and to pick on.
Right. Okay. So this person here who's posted is talking about a girlfriend and eliciting some discussion because it's, you know, it's out there in the public. So clearly they put it out there with a view to getting some comments about how the person who wrote it spoke about a girlfriend and seems to be making, you know, some point about calling her Big Chungus.
Or is that his girlfriend?
No, I think it is. I think it is his or her. I'm not sure who wrote it, but making the point about trying. I mean, clearly it's out there, trying to generate some kind of comment, and I wonder whether you think it's acceptable. Let me ask you that, Owen.
Well, I would say it's not something for social media. So even if it is that he has an issue with the actions of his girlfriend and that she is doing X, Y, and Z, I think probably what he's doing is probably making the situation worse, right? So I would say it's not something for social that he should have posted on social media.
Okay. So then you have these limits about the kinds of things that you think are appropriate for posting and not posting, and things that you yourself might comment on because you think it's not right to engage, for example.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we have society as a whole has put basically everything on social media, and not everything should be exposed to social media. Some things should remain private. Some of our lives should remain private. So if it is that he had an issue that his girlfriend is doing these things for likes, I think he's probably even making it worse by, you know, exposing her in this manner.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. Let's move on to the next slide. So that posting was actually from this person here. And it is this person who goes under the moniker Cartoons Hater Her. And apparently she posts different things to kind of elicit responses. And the article says, describes her as a good troll, meaning that it's just for kicks. And often it's just to
some people sure sort of interpret.
Yeah. I guess the real thing or with it, you know, somebody else takes what do you think, Melissa?
And I think to express ourselves face to face. Like on social media, we have like, you know, we can use emojis and I don't know how this pronounced, so GIFs or whatever, to you know, express our emotions or what we're feeling, what we think. But I feel like face to face is a different story. Like sometimes face to face, like on social media, we might be more brave to say certain things, or but face to face might be a little more cowardly. So
what would allow you to read a situation in the face-to-face environment that you wouldn't be able to do on social media? So how do you manage it on social media then when you make a comment about somebody? I mean, I'm asking generally. And not even you, but anyone you know. How would you say you go about adjudicating whether it's a fair comment or whether it's a little bit close to the bone, as they would say, you know, it's a little bit, you know, provocative? What do you?
Even I'm not a big social media user, to be honest. I rather tell things to their face.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, but I guess off of someone else that uses social media, I don't know. Let me think and come back.
Let me ask you a different question, Melissa. And that is, do you think you're always entitled to, do you think if someone posts something that you're always entitled to comment on it and say you like it or don't like it? Do you think that's fair game? If someone's posted, you can say, well, that's ridiculous, or I don't agree, or, you know, be positive or negative? Or do you think there are some things that people post and you shouldn't comment on?
I think when you post things on social media, automatically putting yourself out there for people to comment on you,
right?
Whether you like it or not. But when the comments, you should not put it out there, because I think that you can't people on social media from commenting on whatever you put out there. So the fact that you can't stop it, the only way you can prevent it is not doing it yourself. Right. So I think that whether people comment on your post negatively or positively, that's sort of on you in a way, because you put yourself out there on something like social media where no one has like any sort of control over. So you kind of just put yourself in that situation. For me, that
I've seen it said by people that you know, sometimes you'll comment on their post and people will say, well, if you don't like it, meaning that they will accept a positive comment, but if it's negative, they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? I mean,
I
feel that's like a double standard almost.
Yes, I have the same views. It is a double standard because, I mean, like I said before, like I see like influencers, right? Like they say, if you don't like my content, then you cannot follow me, or if you don't like my content, you don't need to leave negative comments or whatever. But for me personally, you know what you were getting yourself. Like, you know, they're haters, and you know they're people who, like, you know, let you live. So I think that if you post something and you get good and bad backlash, it doesn't, like, I don't want to say it's like your fault, but you have a part to play.
Sure.
Because, you know, it's not like just they're, like, yeah, they're haters, but I mean, to explain what I'm saying is that you need to be able to handle whatever people are going to give to you. You know, if you can't handle it, like if you're weak, can't handle that, then just don't put yourself out there. Like, that's personally what I do. Like, I know what I can take. I know what my limits are. I know, like, if people tell me certain things, it's going to affect me.
Sure.
I wouldn't put myself in a situation at those comments, you know?
Right.
So that's why I feel like if, you know, you don't like it, or follow me. But I mean, if you don't want any negative comments, don't post. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Sure.
I disagree. I feel like if it's your social media, you can post whatever you want. If someone has constructive criticism, but so let me say don't say anything. This is this platform for you to try to bring me down or whatever I post. So unless it's something nice, you don't have to comment on it. Or like sometimes we see others will post something about their children, and people who don't even have children will comment on it. Like, you don't understand the situation, so why would you comment on it, especially on social media, and I post what I want.
I agree, Rochelle, but at the same time, like, what I'm saying is you can't control people on social media. Like, you can't control if they comment to you or not. So what I'm saying is something you need to be able to handle if people comment, like haters comment to you, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's your one. That's fine. Like, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, there are people out there, you can't control them. Like, you can't control what you post or how you post it, right? The same way you can't control what they comment or what they don't comment. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, like, if you do post something and you get negative comments, you have to be able to handle it. Like, you know, it's kind of like you have to, because you know there are people out there that comment on things where they have not, like, probably just coming from their own insecurities or their own problems, and you know, they just want to have someone, like, they just want to project it onto someone else, you know? So that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, it's fine, it's your social media, you can do what you want, but I'm also saying that you have to expect that there are going to be people who are going to negatively, you know,
correct. But you all that sometimes you will not post something knowing that it might have a certain backlash. I don't think I should let and their negative opinions prohibit me posting what I want to post. So yeah, take a look at it both ways.
Yes. Okay, you could just delete the comments. So, you know, if that's a possibility, then obviously that can happen. So, I mean, it's one of those kind of debates, you know, where people are, you know, kind of walking this tightrope. There are both sides of the argument that can be seen as reasonable. I think, like in public life, celebrities will often say, well, I want the exposure, but I don't want to be hounded by the media or the paparazzi, for example. I think that's a similar kind of discussion. You want to use something to promote a certain image, for example, if you're a celebrity, but you don't, I mean, obviously you don't want to be trolled. You don't want a barrage of negative comments. Nobody goes out, well, some people do go out to be provocative, which is why I slide agent provocateur, which is actually a UK business name. It's for underwear, which is provocative. But nonetheless, so you know, there are public speakers to provoke discussion and do it intentionally. So I mean, I think there's this balance, and I understand arguments. So let me just show you this slide, if I can. A piece of my writing. It was called the Two-Way Through Media. So I wrote this essays, as yet to be published, but I wrote a series of essays, and one of them was on social media and why we post. I was trying to explore the motivations of posting, and I'm asking, to what degree is being online about self-locating? And by that, I mean, that's a communication term. So I have these 2 points of view in here. We post because we want to be seen, and it helps us feel part of a community, or not. And then there are other people who watch, and I'm asking, what is their motivation? Is it to buy into the connection, to watch you and feel part of your life, or is it for some other reason? Why do you post, Rochelle? If you're saying if you say it's for self-expression, then perhaps what you're saying is, you only want positive endorsement. Would you say that's a fair comment or fair question?
I post if I like a picture of myself and I want to share that with others. So yes, I'm not want to come out their way to say, I don't like how you look in this picture. You look terrible. I'm just expecting you to like and carry on.
Okay, I get you. Well, there is this idea that you're posting with the hope will like it and express that like to you.
Yes, and that is
Okay, for positive reinforcement.
Yes.
Okay, got you.
So I guess Instagram is there for, I guess, persons to look for validation, I guess.
I mean, I guess that could be part of it. I'm really just asking us to explore the ideas, like, what is our online personality? Is it
Attracted.
to be
Say that again, sorry.
I missed a comment from someone. Okay. Sorry, got something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I want us to kind of ask a question, make a comment. Really, but is it that everything we're supposed to post, right? Or should we post everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we think, right? Because yes, we may post something, I may post something, but I may take offense because someone comments negatively on it, right? But then maybe the post that I post is something that would generate negative comments no matter what, right? I have a friend, every evening after she gets home from work, she would post a picture of her dinner or supper, and it would be a plate of cricks and something.
Right.
And I would screenshot it and send it to another friend, and we'd have a laughs about it, because it's like, why are you eating cricks every evening? I wouldn't comment openly on it, but certain posts would generate negative comments, because I mean, it may be all that, impressive to you, the individual, but certain things generate negative comments. And I'm of the opinion, I mean, I'm on social media, but
Sure.
why do people post all these things that to me, your whole life don't need to be on social media? If you're eating a plate of cricks one day, if another day eating a plate of rice and corned beef, so be it. I eat rice and corned beef, but I'm not going to post it on social media for the whole world to see.
Yeah. So I think, though, what we're talking about is this boundary where you think you're presenting something positive and somebody goes and says something negative about it, or disparages, or brings you down a bit. And obviously that is that's on this continuum of being negative about somebody's presentation on social media. So we have this idea of an online personality, which is distinct from our real life personality. And I'm asking the room, this is my final question on this slide. To what degree do you feel that the online presentation that you make is another part of you, the private what extent is it, are those two things completely enmeshed and completely the same, you would say, for those who do post?
Well, for me, I am very private. So basically all I post is like pictures of myself. I don't post like who I'm in a relationship with or those things. And I share things that I think will motivate people. So oftentimes I will share like a Joel Osteen quote, but because I remember a guy told me, he's like, Rosha, you're express like who you are is just pictures of you. And I said, yes, I prefer it that way because I like face-to-face communication. Come and get to know me. Don't just judge me based on my Instagram.
Okay.
So, and that's how I like my profile.
Okay, interesting. Do you ever comment on posts, Rochelle?
Positive quotes, because only positive comments because my mommy taught me better than bringing down people. I'm totally against that. I'm totally against bullying. I'm totally against.
That would be your mantra, Rochelle.
Most definitely.
Okay. So what about the space to critique then? I mean, if someone is presenting themselves in a way that you think is not doing them, you know, is doing them a disservice.
Well, then I would handle it in a professional manner. I wouldn't say, you are so stupid. How can you say this? I will say, I see your opinion, but you can also consider, and that's how I handle things.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so somebody else has added the correct, nothing good to say nothing at all. Exactly. All right. So we have different viewpoints, you know, whether we should post, whether we should not post, what is acceptable to post, and how we should regard those things, and whether we're entitled to comment and not comment. So I'm just kind of getting at the social media personality and the kinds of media allow us to do, and whether it's prompted in any way by just this human need to communicate, and the degree to which maybe social media creates a space where people, being anonymous, can be brave about the negative things they say, and you know why people post. Why do we post? Whether it's a positive endorsement, or whether we're trying to be provocative, or whether we're willing to accept negative. If you don't have a thick skin, and because you can't control what people say, you shouldn't post with the viewpoint that maybe it will be negative. Others think in the room that you should be free to post what you want and no negative comments should be sent to you because it's just rude. I think a summary. Do you have anything in your experience, Greer, regarding social media and posting from a business perspective or from a brand perspective?
Well, I used to manage social media accounts before it was a thing, and when it was easy,
right.
When it wasn't a science. Managing one social media account is not just, managing a social media account doesn't mean posting something every day. It's a lot more than that. It takes up a lot more time. So I do not do it anymore. It's way too complex for me. It's over my head now, beyond my reach now. And I admire the field, and I admire that now more than ever, companies are, from a business perspective, finally starting to value locally, finally starting to value it in the way that it can hold their business and carry their business, more so than a website. And so, but the evolution of it, when I worked at Whole Foods Market in London, so I was there with the opening of the store, of the flagship store on Kensington Street. I was part of that opening. So I was a part of creating their first Facebook page, creating their first social media communication, and, you know, what is that going to look like for Whole Foods Market? And now, back then, it was such an easy thing for me to be a part of and do and spearhead. But now when I think of it, it's so daunting. It's so daunting. Just managing customers' comments and questions is a job on its own. And right. Like last week we spoke about strategic communication, and strategic communication online, when you can't see the customer and the customer can't see you and the customer is correct is a whole other course. Like that's a whole other ball game. And then customers, I mean, we're talking here about commenting on one another, but then customers comment on one another as well. And right. You as a business have no power, or like I can't tell a customer, hey, you can't say that, or you, I mean, thanks for backing us up, but you can't tell a customer what kind of dotish question was that, you know, which they were right, but, you know, so it's like a whole, like so many different layers and so many things will come into mind, you know, just hearing and listening to what they're saying so far. So far, we're really talking about social media as this communication platform. And I feel like it's really important to differentiate that. So when we say social media, obviously we know we're talking about it in terms of communication, but out there in the general world, social media stands for a lot of different things. So out there in the general world, if we're going to talk about social media communication, then we have to specify. Right now, we're talking about how we communicate via social media communication. We're not talking about how we connect or how we network necessarily, or that we play games, or that we go there first to do research on companies or shop sometimes to do shopping. We're talking here about how we communicate with one another via social media rather than versus face-to-face, and how that, you know, changes the game.
Just on this point about deleting comments if you don't like them, from a business perspective, is that fair enough, or does that create some kind of ethical dilemma for you, or some question mark?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that, you know, the same way I manage my own personal social media a certain way, and if I don't like your comment, I delete you as a friend, far less for the actual comment. But right. I think, you know, there's two sides of it. The company has a right to manage the temperature of their Facebook, their social media platform, and the kind of communication that they allow. So that's why you see more and more disclaimers, like we have the right to remove, you know, comments or followers. We have the right to manage the speech, you know, no hate speech allowed, no profanities allowed. So they preempt it so that when they do delete you, they can say, well, we told you that, you know, we would if we didn't like it. How far they go with that is another thing. The other side of that is, well, free speech. And if the company, especially in a case where the company deserves the criticism because they have done crap, isn't that what social media communication is all about? To be open and transparent, and everyone connects with everyone and sees the truth. And if I know I had a bad experience and I want to share it, and we tend to share that more than the good experiences we have with businesses, then obviously I'm sharing it because I don't want other people to go through that same experience. And I have a right to do that. You cannot delete my comments if I'm dissing your business. But I don't, what's right or wrong. And then, so we get back into the conversation about what the likes of Facebook and Twitter is better at it, but what the likes of social media platforms allow and disallow, and where's the line? Where's that, you know?
Yes, exactly. One of the issue of deleting comments from a business perspective is it creates, like, should you do, I mean, that doesn't seem right. And then it's incredible if people come and review your site and see either they know that things have been deleted or they don't know. But I mean, it is dicey because it can seem quite ridiculous and incredible if every review is a 5-star review. I don't know. I don't know how I would feel looking at a website if everything was 5-star, and I kind of question if that's credible.
The conversation that I would have in PR is that if you have built the kind of brand image that you can stand on, then you could allow 1 or 2, and it will only be 1 or 2, and that is prerogative of of whatever customer has decided they don't like you, one or two negative comments or minority negative comments is not going to put a dent in your image. And customers, your diehards, your loyals, the ones that you're actually targeting, the innovators, the ones that, you know, I mean, I will go on Starbucks page and you could have all the negative comments in the world and I'm still heading right there to get my dirty chai. There's nothing, Starbucks can do no wrong, right? They have that relationship with me. They have that connection with me. Yes, I support local, yada, 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 but no one makes a dirty chai like Starbucks. I know what I'm paying for. I know what I'm gonna get. I will pay double for it if I know I'm getting my expectation. So if you can create that brand image, then you don't have to delete the comments.
But you see, if it's a negative film review or a negative restaurant review and you haven't been there before, and if the company has been targeted in a nefarious way, if somebody has got another, rival business, for example, has gone out to, I don't know what the term would be, where shower their pages with negative comments, bring down their reviews. I mean, and people do that. They're, with Yelp reviews and all that kind of stuff.
And the company has the option of going the high road and saying, you know what, fine, this might knock us down for a bit, but we'll just find a different way around it. Again, Starbucks. So before, when what's their name, 1% who owns Rituals, when they found out that Starbucks was coming to Trinidad, the entire west of, this is why there's no Starbucks in the west. And this is why I for the first time in my life, want to leave Diego Martin. They immediately sent out real estate agents to find every single location that Starbucks could possibly rent and open, and they rent it. They rented it. It's empty. No one's in it, but they've done that to block Starbucks from the west. So, and Starbucks is not going to take them to court for that. Starbucks is just going to say, okay, cool. We're still going to, and Starbucks is ruthless. I don't like that part of them, but they're ruthless. You do something like that to them, they're going to come, and it might take longer, but they will bury you. So you move around it,
This is a peek behind the curtains.
I have lots. I have infiltrated Starbucks meetings. When they're having their meetings, I just go and sit down and this is why Starbucks is opening in UE. Well, they were supposed to open in UE because of me. I infiltrated a meeting.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. Good to know not to get on you when it comes to setting up business. All right. Really good discussion then about this idea about using social media as individuals and how we feel about it. All right. Cheers. Yes. Positive endorsement. Let's hope they don't. Oh, when we post stuff like this on YouTube, I noticed they cut certain things out of videos. So I guess they'll allow.
Yeah, I get by some of it.
Okay, so I actually want us to listen to this clip from a BBC documentary where and I just would like to have us listen to this and the question that I'm proposing here about minimizing this in the workspace. So let's just have a listen to my tab and then play it for. So let's do this. How do I do this? Back to share. Okay.
They know what he's like. But I wonder if he...
Sorry, we're going to start
most of his monthly paycheck. His family helps him to pay his bills. Blames the policymakers for his circumstances. And immigrants. Why are you so angry?
It's equality. I like
volume is very low.
You're gay, you're straight, you're black, you're white, you're pink, you're mother. We should all be treated. You know,
is everyone hearing clearly?
We're so PC now, it's ridiculous.
If I can turn it up.
And
Is that loud enough?
Yeah.
Let me turn it up full. From his working class, talking about people being PC. Turned up the volume. Let's see if this is better.
Just to say what's on my mind.
Better?
Alan's unapologetic about those comments he left online. And he said he wouldn't mind his family and friends seeing them. They know what he's like. But I wonder if he was ashamed at some level. He told us he wouldn't want his son knowing about them. One person in particular has been at the receiving end of Alan's nasty comments on Facebook groups.
Where he's conspiring.
He is, he's here. Oh. This is Gina Miller. She's a political activist and she came into the public eye here in the UK because of her dedicated opposition to Brexit. And in Britain's political establishment, she stood out. Not a woman, but because she's a woman of colour.
It's a quite mad thing, but yeah.
We meet at the H Club, a swanky members club in Soho in central London. It's got fancy sofas, shiny floors and Art Deco chandeliers. It's in the heart of the capital, you might call the global elite. And at a quick glance, Gina fits right in. She's smartly dressed and clearly juggling her work as she flits between emails on her laptop and her phone. But once we get chatting about a different side of Gina. She was born in Guyana, a former British colony in America. Gina left to come to the UK when she was only little. Who she is and her political activism have made her a prime target for terrible abuse, including death threats, which she says she gets every day.
It's out of I think. It's out of control, and I don't care which side you're on. I'm fed up of party politics. I just want people to start thinking about each other as being people.
Alan is just who sent her nasty messages. Other people go even further than him.
No one cares about you, Gina Miller. If you got hit by the bus today and died a truly painful death, then 17.4 million people would celebrate in absolute jubilation.
She does report comments like these, but she says they've remained on Facebook. So have Alan's comments that we've mentioned, despite being pretty obvious violations. Once we flagged these up to Facebook, the company said they removed them, and they say they take the harassment of public figures very seriously. Alan's never attacked her in public, but he has online. So I wondered, what would happen if they actually met?
Go on date. Actually, I did one.
It was a bit of an awkward start. Gina and I, already inside this swanky club, were waiting for Alan. When he entered, he tried to introduce himself to Gina with a handshake over my head. I could tell he was nervous. She was politely awkward. At this point, Alan realised there was tension and changed his stance. He came round and greeted Gina face to face. Gina remained seated. So, Alan, why have you agreed to meet Gina today?
Because the conversations that we had yesterday, and from what you're saying, I didn't want to leave another bit of hate around in the world. If I could do something to clear that up, then I'll talk to anybody to clear that up. It's not my place to make people feel like that.
So, Gina, do you want to explain a little bit about yourself to Alan?
I'm a pretty strong person, but out of necessity, I think it's a I was feeling so guilty about being a single mom with her that I wanted to give her a family, a ready-made family, and a wonderful man came along. And I thought, you know, here's my ready-made family. And it turned out he was very violent. So the only place...
On hearing this, Alan, there was relief. At one time, he also lived in a car. Maybe he and Gina than he thought.
I'm a single father.
Okay.
I've been since, he's 15 now.
How long have you been a single dad?
Since he was 4.
Oh, so a long time. Okay.
Yeah, long, yeah.
It was a marked change from the day before when we first met Alan. This time, he was much less defensive and much more... It's the sort of conversation that would almost never happen online because social media is often so polarising. Linda Kay is a psychologist who analyses online behaviour. She explains the psychology behind this real-life thawing.
Okay, so I want to leave that particular audio there, and just ask you whether what you made of you feel about he didn't want to leave another piece of hate in the world. So what's been going on with him and the comments he's been making? What are people that? Useful that he said he didn't want to leave hate in the world, which makes it sound like, well, either it happened in the moment, but he's moved on since then. Do you think that's a reasonable point of view? Do you have any empathy for that kind of perspective, that kind of behavior? I wonder what you think, Rochelle, since people posting, your viewpoint is that you should never post a negative comment, and you typically, well, you wouldn't. Do you think it's possible? Do you have any sympathy or empathy for someone who posts a negative comment, as nasty as those that he posted, potentially criminal, but says he doesn't want to leave another piece of hate in the world, meaning he feels like he's moved on and he, you know, perhaps doesn't still mean it?
I don't think she's in the room anymore.
Oh, she left. Oh, I see. Okay. All right, Melissa, what do you think?
I was gonna say something and now I forgot. I think I was gonna say I have no empathy for him because when you say something, when you post it on social media or you just say it, even face to face on social media, when you put it out there, it's out there. You can't like take it back, I think. So I think you already did the deed. Saying sorry now or, you know, trying to fix the situation is not going to take back what you put the woman through at that time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think if I was in her situation and he told me that, I would probably just leave. I don't want to hear sorry or that.
Really?
Was an in the moment sort of thing, because, you know, like, even if like you're going through something as well, to project your negativity onto me. Although I did say that, you know, if you're in social media, you have to be able to handle it. But what I'm saying is, you already did it. I already handled it. So it's not going to change whether you say sorry or not. It's not going to change it. So, yeah.
I bet you regret, even in tone, if not the exact words, but the emphasis you put on something. You never told a friend something and thought, you know what, I really shouldn't have said it like that.
Yeah, I have said things I've regretted, but I've also, like, even if I apologize, I would be like, I know that saying sorry is not going to fix it. I already said it, but I'll try not to do it again. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I understand. I don't know, I feel like giving someone death threat to telling someone, you know, if you're dying about it, I feel like that's a different level of things. Like, even if you say something in anger and you're like, but he sound like why he would say that I was angry about, even if he's like said it and I'm like, what was your anger stemming from? Or like, was it just that you just didn't care about this woman because what, she's black and she's a woman, you know? So if it comes from a place like, oh, I feel like in a situation where it sort of just depends. Right. You say the negative comments. So if I was in a situation where I'm having an argument with my friend or whatever, and I say something and I backtrack and I'm like, crap, I shouldn't have said that. I think that it's different than when you you know, you're meant to be malicious. You know, you want to hurt this person. I think like a mistake and, you know, a strong desire to hurt someone is very different when you apologize. You know, because I would tell my friend that and I regret it, but I didn't mean to. It's kind of like a slip of the tongue, or, you know, it kind of just came out because I couldn't control my emotions. For him, I felt it was more like, I want to tell you this because I just don't like you. You know what I mean? Like, it just was malicious. I apologizing for that and me apologizing for something, but you know, my emotions are just very different. But
it does. No, it makes sense. Yeah. But what about at the beginning, as we were saying, and Bowen mentioned this, that you know, maybe esteem, a place of self-loathing, if you like. I mean, even though you say you don't accept the apology, you also can't prevent people from being in a bad space. And as you say, you know, being unable to control their emotions, as you have been, or in an argument. How does that sit with you?
Can you just repeat it so I could register that?
So I'm saying at the beginning, we were saying maybe someone posts negative because of low self-esteem. Maybe they themselves were bullied. And so my question to you is, even though you don't accept the apology, you also can't prevent someone from feeling the emotions that they feel. And therefore, to say you would never accept an apology is almost like saying, I cannot accept you being in a position of having low self-esteem.
Okay, yeah, I understand. But that's a difficult situation. That's interesting. For me, if the person who, you know, was mean to me or whatever, it stemmed from their self-esteem or from their past experience, like they are angry that it happened to them, and then, you know, they want to do it to someone else. I feel like because it happened to you, you should understand the pain you're going to put someone else through by doing it to them, because you've experienced it. So I feel like, yes, everybody have like self-esteem issues, or like, you know, they're angry themselves, or they're angry or how they feel about. I just feel like using that as an excuse to, you know, be mean to someone is not enough. I mean, is any excuse enough to, even if you're struggling with something, even if you have low self-esteem or whatever it is, like, does that justify?
Yeah, I get your point. But if it's like, as you're saying, you can't control your emotions and therefore you blurt something out and you kind of regret it after, I think the low self-esteem that we're talking about generates that kind of, because it means that we're coming from a certain place. So while it's not an excuse, it is an explanation. And Sadira's making that point about, you know, it shouldn't be used as an excuse, but nonetheless it does explain perhaps.
I mean, I guess, yeah, it does explain, but I guess it still depends on the person who was the victim, you know.
Yes.
Forgive or not.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends on the victim.
Got you. I completely agree with that. Yes, exactly. So whether or not you accept the outcome of that interaction as, you know, being not justified, but whether or not you can accept and move on from it, forgive it, let's say, is then up to you as an individual in this kind of interaction. Yes. So thank you for that. Thank you, Melanie. All right. So if this were to be in a workplace environment, the idea of someone being negative about other people, maybe sending, you know, negative comments, actually try and mitigate those kinds of things from happening? I'm asking the room generally, what would be your approach to reducing the possibility these kinds of divisions? And in this particular clip, the division was about not understanding each other. So let's say it's managers and employees are constantly saying negative things, either on the, the networks or through social media, about other members of staff. How would you go about trying to mitigate that in an environment, in an organizational environment? Any thoughts on that?
Dr. Shepherd?
Yes.
I think that can be addressed in two ways. If I think about it, it can either be addressed by through the in terms of placing restrictions on the internet access and stuff like that, and it can also be addressed in terms of probably holding a meeting to definitely deal with that particular situation, informing people of the it's obviously a bad practice, in terms of because they are doing so. I think that's probably two ways that I see could be addressed.
Yeah. My thought is, Bowen, what if it's not so much about, what if it's between managers and employees and there's this constant, sniping away at what managers do, and then managers are constantly, saying things back about employees.
On the social media?
I'm talking about that kind of negative, yes, or on social media, yeah.
But then the person who's in charge of the they could probably treat that, because I remember having back a few years ago, I would have been more or less one of the person in charge of the Facebook page for where I worked, and we had us to had to be on the ball. Sometimes people would post negative stuff like that, and it's how it is now. Post comes in, you will get a notification, right? So you had to go there, delete stuff, sometimes block persons and stuff like that. So probably that's how they could treat it. If it is they get onto the whatever the negative post may be, they block persons, they could caution person, get in the inbox and caution you as well as to what it is you're doing, the negativity of what you're doing.
Right.
And caution you against it. Probably give that a three strikes and out, something like that, and let them know that it'll be blocked.
Okay. So the idea is you feel quite strongly about setting in place parameters and moderating any online environment in the workplace, so that people don't say negative things about each other.
Yeah, because I mean, having users like that to throw talk back and forth, I mean, it's counterproductive. It will take away from time time that they should be spent doing their job, and then it would actually affect the in the organization.
Right. My question obviously presupposed that this is always negative. Do you think there's any way in which the division between managers and employees, perpetuated through social media, could ever be a positive thing? Do you think there could be any reasons why an organization would want to keep those two groups of people divided in any way?
I'll give a little thought to that.
Okay.
Probably someone else would answer.
Yeah. In the and then the other employee. Yeah.
Do you think that would create? Do you think there'd be any good reason for that situation? Allow that to happen? Could you see any reason why that would be useful to an organization, if it is?
Well, I can't see it like if they're using like hateful terms and comments, I can't see it being useful. If it is that they have opposing and they're posting opposing points of views, then they might actually be able to connect with more people because they're having a greater like variety of opinions. But
Right.
yeah, but if it comes down to like hate comments and things like that, which these things often evolve into, yeah, right.
Let's say it's not at the level of hate, but at the level of criticism, and it's a constant kind of division. I'm just wondering if anyone sees there might be any reason that an organization would allow that to continue.
Yeah, I'm not needed it. Yeah, it doesn't seem to make sense unless they needed the like they need people to feel very much a part of whatever group it is. Like you're part of this team and managers, and we like group together more, and the managers feel a certain way about the other employees, so they you know, it pushes it like two groups of workers.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure would come out of that any longer.
I don't know, Greer, do you have any?
I don't know.
Hi there.
Oh, I thought she was gonna say something else. I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, I think that I don't think it's ever a good idea to have any sort of separation or division. I feel like we're way beyond that, even when it comes to social media within the organization, managers and employees. Somebody knows something that the other person doesn't know, and it's not necessarily because of what side of the fence they're, sitting on. So I think with an organization, if you have like that set goal and objective, it should, and it's going to exude through the social media communication that you have with your customers. And as long as everyone is working together, not divided, and on the same page, which is obviously a really pretty ideal picture, then you're going to be able to manage and sustain that connection with your customers, which is what social media is supposedly allowing organizations to do. If it's not coming from an authentic place, I'm sorry about the drilling in the background. They're obviously drilling today because I'm on class. But yeah, so if, that being said, it being authentic and coming from an authentic place, it will exude, the message that you want to your customers, from manager top down and then through social media to the customers. So similarly, when we go back to personal posting between us and how we comment on one another, are we able to see when someone is being fraud, or are we able to see when they're being authentic? And does that change how we comment on what they're talking about? I love cricks. So if the woman like cricks and she eating cricks every night, however, it is something that will give you a chuckle because it's like, I suppose she's being authentic about her dinner, but what does that really mean? So you're just like, I think like, are we getting better at smelling out the fraud, the pretend, and the facade that we, pose to one another? And can we also smell it when it comes from, see it and detect it when it comes from an organization?
Yeah. The issues around allowing division to ferment within an organization through social media, I was wondering if organizations might ever use it to stimulate teams, and as Rochelle said, to maintain solidarity between certain groups within an organization. Also, as a issue of dynamic, to kind of align it, kind of to have to kind of maintain authority in some way.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what I was really thinking about the uses.
I mean, even before we had Facebook, which was the first one, I think, well, MySpace, Facebook, whatever, you know, companies had their own internal some companies, not all of them, already had their own internal like intranet or whatever they would call it, where that, and I think that, you know, the reason that that was created, yes, so that they are more efficient in their communication, but also so that they had their own little networks and they had their own little home, and it made things easier for them to, you know, come together in solidarity for the sake of the company. You know, I think is the overall, that would have been a selling point when that idea first came on a board table in an organization. Should we have our own internal internet? The selling point would have been, this is what will bring our company together.
Is it come to control, like man?
I think it ended up being that because now they could definitely control and monitor, and are you actually working and all those things. And we know that, you know, Facebook is definitely monitoring us right now. So it definitely is that today. I don't know that it started off as that, or if that was even part of the discussion in the decision making, but
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to move us on. I'm watching the time, and I want to move us on to again on this, and I just want us to watch a couple of really short clips about interactions with people who they're labeled in this story as internet warriors. They explain their own reasons for things that they can get to this. Stop sharing. Open tab. I can do. So this is a really interesting short. I just from, and I think he starts. What happened? Sorry. One is from a man named Paul.
I wrote.
Who are the people who spend their lives debating online? And how did the discourse become so polarized? Why do so many use the internet to threaten, harass, and stretch freedom of speech to its limits? Online. Find the comment. Meet net warriors.
Going through the correct channels, you know, paying the money. Have some photographs of my house inside and out. And my wife can come to this country. It cost me about £4,000 all in all. Then she gets here for 6 months and then she's got to go home. Which is another reason I hate my government. People in it. But she's here now. 6 months. And she's got to go home.
Tweet 74,000 times. Like, I didn't realise that it had gone that high. No, I'm never hateful because I believe that to hate something, you have to have loved it before. I wrote this tweet to the artist Lady Gaga. That bitch has really fucking pissed me off. Fuck you, you tired ass showgirl cunt. Go back to Pie City where you belong. Yeah, it's harsh, but it was necessary for me to outlet my emotions. Ой, можно я все-таки одно слово заменю, а? Держите меня в осьмеру, я сейчас единый. The things I'm most interested in discussing online is mainly pop culture, equality, and sex that I talk about with people. It's not something I care about because at the end of the day, find a computer secure person. Someone says about you online. Tweet I wrote, I hope ISIS kill David Cameron. I really can't stand David Cameron. Like, I wish we had a different Prime Minister here. He was an absolute twat. Yeah, I stand by that. Still do.
Okay, so we're going to leave those videos there. All right, so my question is, what role did social media play potentially in kinds of viewpoints in the people that we've seen internationally? How do you feel about these individuals who have been trolling and making these negative comments on the basis that we've now heard a little bit about their backstories?
Rochelle. When they create feed, the prompt, maybe it's still this way, was what's on your mind? And really, it wasn't like a prompt like that just means that you can say anything. It gives you permission to say anything at all. And well, I feel like the rest of social media, like the rest of the big, continued on that. But it's good, and sometimes it can be perceived as good, and sometimes it can be perceived as bad, because obviously these people don't think it's bad. They think like they're just sharing a point of view.
Yeah.
It's kind of off topic, but I feel like the framing of like how they presented the people for this video is like, whoa, like it's already telling us what we should think about them, whereas other seen background or something, but this one is like, look at these people.
Yeah, you know what though, the idea of this media, and it's from the Guardian newspaper, that's a left-leaning political paper in the UK, is to show people, show you in their home environment. I guess the thinking was that it might help the viewer elicit an understanding to what they do. Explanation. So the first one, obviously they showed us, you know, they European Union and get rid of Europe and talking about migrants, and then we realized that his wife is and I said or not, you know, she's not, you know, she's potentially part of a kind of group who may have been a migrant, but he said he was talking about illegal immigration and his wife had to go through the channels and it cost a lot of money, and he was very negative about that. It was quite telling, the, you know, when they moved to the shot to include the wife, that it was almost offering an explanation, I think, of why he is talking the way he is. Rochelle, what did you make of Ashley and her negative comments about, you know, the government and her negative and her saying you have to have a thick skin?
I think, like, because of the framing of her but she was like, I don't want to say overweight, but that's the word I usually use, so I'm gonna say it. That, yeah, she's like overweight, and she's clearly like over 80, you know, over general university age, but it's the middle of the day and she's like in her bed kind of thing on her phone, and she may have had to develop a thick skin, so now she like applies that reasoning to everyone else.
Yeah.
Even though it can be completely inaccurate, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're making assumptions based on what the video reveals to us, and as you're saying, the video is set up in a way to make us look at the stories in a certain way. So I read it in the same way, that maybe to develop a because of, you know, personal issues, whatever they might have, and therefore thinks that she has a thick skin, when in fact, you know, I wonder how she would react to negative comments that were posted against her. I suspect she would retaliate, and if someone retaliates, then the question is, to what degree go over you, to what degree do you have a thick skin and think, well, this is irrelevant, and to what degree is it bothering you because you actually do you do perceive that comment as having some truth in it. That's my
you're like giving it energy, so it's like, okay, you don't have you may claim to have a thick skin, but then something is written against you and you put energy towards it instead of it just being like water on a duck's back, you know.
Yes, exactly. So I think we're saying then that there is a way in which, you know, individuals have a kind of a backstory, whether it be self-esteem or some other issue, and sometimes the negative comments that they project out onto people are for, you know, these various reasons, and of course happens of different ways on social media. The other thing I want, and then I'm going to give you a couple of questions to ponder, is this idea of private duality. This is from a paper I wrote in medicine and among medical students. And so I have this, so in the paper, I mean, I surveyed some regulations from various medical authorities from around the world. And there are a lot that seem to say to medical students, you shouldn't post anything on social media that can bring the profession of medicine down. Now you are a prospective medical doctor. And how do you maintain this private professional division when, in fact, in this case, you're not professional yet. You're still a student. Do you think it is right to tell medical students you shouldn't post anything that may bring down the profession, i.e., sexualized behavior, with the negative things that we can think about, unhealthy eating, maybe anything that has a partisan association that would be negative? Obviously, you know, any of the isms, racism, sexism, any of those kinds of things. How do you feel about it? About making that expectation of students?
I'm gonna answer and agree with it, like entirely, especially if you're still training for it and you're not actually there. Like everyone acknowledges that people have varying views, but especially in the field of medicine, people need to know that their doctor isn't going to like to be a woman going to a doctor who's like a known like person who speaks like completely poorly about women or people of a certain ethnicity or something like that.
Right.
So, and like I also think if it was in the case of like training people who are training to be on a national team, like you're not on the national team, but you train with them, and so you also represent them, and your behavior is reflected onto it.
I mean so you're not on the team, but you are around the team, and by association, you need to kind of behave a certain way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because like for example, like, I was in that position. Like you train with them and you move with them and all that, but you're not like if they're 24 players and all, you're not going to be on the bench or the startup like that, but you are part of the association.
Right. So you feel by association, by dint of connecting with them in some way, you could bring down their reputation, and therefore you should be mindful of the things you post privately, even though you're not yet part of that organization officially.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think there are certain individual or certain where the people who are within those groups should be more mindful of what they post privately even before they've become a professional? Or do you think it occurs across the board? Like a teacher, for example, someone who goes on to become a school teacher, if they had a wild time at vets and post themselves in various situations, do you think that reflects badly on the teaching profession even before they've become a teacher? Would you feel uncomfortable with your child going and being in their classroom if you saw certain kinds of behavior? Or do you think that's separate and apart, they're entitled to their private life, it's before they became a professional?
I think that one, it depends on the profession or association that you're a part of. Okay. But that's what I'm saying, like we understand that people have lives outside of their professions, but and I think there's like some leniency, like of course they're teenagers or they're young people or it's a weekend or something, but I think for the parents, as a parent I'd be fine, but if it was like a child seeing my teacher in a certain like ways, you I feel as if it ends like the end result wanted or that the ends up losing some of the respect of the position.
Right. So if someone who was training, who's at college training or you know, smoking and drinking and liming, would that be an issue?
Smoking, well, I feel like I guess by association I know that enjoy a good drink, but if I didn't know that, then I mean if I line. I don't know, because I think that with that particular group of people, you can say like it was outreach, like they can justify anything by, not anything, but they can justify it by saying like, yeah, we're like connecting with the young people, or like trying to bring a certain group of people back to the faith or whatever it is.
Right.
But in general, I feel like it does affect the image
right.
of the person.
So you'd be more accepting of someone at theology college who was maybe seen to be womanizing or partying than a doctor who was, you know, expressing views that you didn't like? Or what about if that doctor was, you know, indulging in unhealthy behavior, perhaps sexually lewd behavior or something like that? What's your point, Sadira?
So I wasn't sure if this was making any sense to my mind, but the point with the priest and that was different from what you would be preaching, so it might conflict with that. The part with the teachers engaging in I don't know, like promiscuous activity, I wouldn't be comfortable sending my child into the school knowing that a teacher would be teaching my child. I mean, just my opinion, I don't know. They're entitled to have their own life, but at the same time, they need to keep in mind that their profession, the teachers that is, would be in child care. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, it makes sense for sure. With
I don't know. I just think that because you're working in this kind of working with children, I don't think that you should be engaging in those kind of acts on your own time. I don't know. I don't know. I just wouldn't be comfortable knowing that that is their other life.
Right.
They make it public for everybody to know that is.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a really tricky subject, this personal, and the online space, obviously for medical students, creates an environment where they're being told by medical authorities, and they're told they're presuming you will, you cannot be seen to be indulging in outrageous behavior because it may bring down the profession. And obviously the degree to which we talk about what is outrageous or unreasonable is dependent on country and dependent on the attitudes of particular kind of, you know, spaces. And also, you know, none of that is set in stone. And also the sanctions are maybe that you could be kicked out of medical school for, you know, doing something that you did in a moment of folly. So it's interesting, but we do have, you know, perspectives on reputation and the certain professions that need to uphold their reputation, even in their private space, even before they've, you know, qualified. Yes, Bowen, what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I would agree where that is concerned, right? Because where I work, we have a particular charge which they call conduct prejudice to good military order and discipline, right? And that is basically that an individual would do that would bring the service, well, not the service, but bring the force into disrepute. And
right.
To reference, within the last few months, we had a young man who would have joined within the last, I think would have been the last 2 years, and he went on Facebook and he made some outrageous comments, right? That would totally derogatory, outrageous, outlandish comments. Right. And there were pictures of him in his uniform, in his military uniform.
Right.
And he would have been placed on disciplinary charges. The thing about it that it wasn't just confined to the force, because it got into the mainstream media, and it was a feature on the news and stuff like that, and things based on the comments that he said and things. So yeah, we need to be mindful based on the profession that we have, and even as young people, sometimes they need to be mindful too, because I can tell you that locally, security forces internationally, they use social media as a platform for information.
Yes.
Right? They use it as a platform to get information on people and stuff like that. So we may, at the age of 18, you may do something without thinking and you put it up there. But at the age of 25, you may apply for a particular job, but yet still whatever you put there is still there in cyberspace, right? So we need to be careful what we put up.
Bowen, I have two questions. One, if it hadn't reached national media, do you think he would have been treated differently if it was kind of kept privately and only a few people had seen it and it hadn't made the local newspapers, you know, the national papers?
He would have been dealt with the same way. Same way. Yeah, because
it was the fact that it was splashed across the media that made it worse for him.
It was really bad, and the thing is, he's one of the most junior persons, so he would have now joined, and he needed to be made, you know, his peers at his level, you know, everyone would need to see that this is unacceptable. So I don't think that the media coverage had an effect. I think he would have been dealt with the same way, whether there's media coverage or not.
Okay. The situation I'm talking about with medical students, though, is that they're not yet part of the profession. They're just doing a medical degree. So do you think the same kinds of stringent restrictions on what they do privately in their own private, you know, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the things they say, they should be mindful of those even from 18, 19, 20, whether it be unhealthy behavior, apparently, you know, kind of sexually outrageous behavior? Do you think all of those things should be clamped down upon?
I would agree, and I think so, because even at that stage, you would have an idea, you have ambition for a particular career, and you need to be modern, and your mindset, you need to be modern, your thoughts, you know, and even your behavior, as I mentioned before, the things that you do now could come back and affect you. So even if it is that they would not have completed the program, the degree as yet, and things, all that would still have an effect on the type of person, the type of professional that they would be. Because if it is, I'm thinking a particular way now, and I'm letting people know via social media, this is right, an effect. What would they do after they pass the degree, they get the degree? They're going to what is put there now?
But maybe that's juvenile behavior. Maybe that's, you know, young, ridiculous, you know, not yet, you know, out in the world kind of behavior.
Maybe, but probably there should be part of the program, I'm not sure, that addresses that you know, that mold their thoughts to let them know that this type of behavior is on a stage. So whether or not they don't know, that they would know. So maybe that should become part of the program.
Yeah. Well, I was working at Faculty of Med Sci, so we were doing that. And that's one of the reasons I actually wrote this paper. But my argument was that I felt, you know, students, I mean, the language or at least the moderation of the guidance within the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association and others around the world needs to make along a particular line that I was arguing with respect to medical students and healthcare professionals. But I mean, it was just a particular argument I was making that, yeah, we have been trying to introduce that so they do become mindful of it. Thank you for that, Bowen. I saw Sadira had a point.
Oh, so I just wanted to add one quick point to Bowen's point. When at 18, when they're doing the drinking, smoking, whatever. When, as he said, work practice by yourself, right? I think as like a possible patient in the future, if I go to research them and their profile when they were 18 comes up, I don't think that I would want to choose that doctor. I think I would just go a different way.
Yeah. Sure.
I think at this age, knowing that you want to be in the medical profession, you need to be aware of what you're posting on social media and kind of activities that you engage in.
Yes, interesting. I actually read a lot of patient or kind of public reports from around the world, including the UK and Australia, about their thoughts about doctors and what they thought when they found, you know, out private information about their prospective doctors' lives through social media. And in the UK, they said they actually didn't care whether the doctor had a private life or not, so long as it wasn't criminal. If there were, you know, kind of, if there were issues of criminality, they were a lot less comfortable going to see that doctor than if it was issues about smoking and drinking and maybe even sexually promiscuous behavior. They, in the UK, at least the public who were surveyed for this, they separated that from other kinds of behavior, which I thought was really interesting, because I'm not sure we would have that same attitude in Trinidad and Tobago, in part because we're a smaller society and we know a lot more about people, and we are keen to find out some of these things before. I think our latitudes might be us to consider questions here. And then we're just going to, take 10 minutes thinking about this, and then we're going to go on to the second part and final part for another 10 minutes, and then we'll be done. Greer, are you still? Oh, yes, you're with us. How many people in the room? How many people are here?
We have 18.
18.
And plus us. So 20 total.
Yeah. 4 groups of 4. I wonder if we could do the breakout groups. 4 groups of 4, just for 10 minutes, and have them consider these 2 questions.
Okay.
So while we're working on that, essentially what I would like you to do is to be in those groups and consider your answers to these 2 questions. Excuse me. Politely impacted through things like email and social media use, and how we, what are the communication elements then that impact on these two things. I wonder if you could take 10 minutes and actually just deliberate on those. And I had a question. No, that's it. Yeah, those 2 questions. I'd like you to spend 10 minutes and come back to us.
Okay. And we just, okay. It will try to put you in a room as well, but just don't. Sure. Yeah. I can't tell it not to. I don't know why. I want to actually okay, I know what I'm gonna do. Okay.
Room.
Okay.
So.
All right. So most of them have joined, not all of them. They're now going into their room.
I see Kristen, Christian, Asha.
Yeah.
Maybe we could pause the recording, Greer, just for 10 minutes, and then we'll bring them back. Groups actually discussed. Welcome back, everyone. What you discussed in terms of those two points, the professional private boundary, and also have been impacted by social media. What did you all think?
Group. that there was let me just open it back up. Yeah. So there was a high degree of on the professional and gave the example of even with like having cell phones that there was a general latency. The companies contact you on different communication technology, your work hours, because you can now be contacted when you're office and etc. And the point in being common, you have to like to present yourself regardless of what your weekend or like.
Yes.
And the stereotypes can be applied based on what social media. So even though somebody might be hardworking, if something happens, if they are one way in the office, like a dedicated worker, I'm like lineman 4:30 on Friday evening and doing certain things, you're gonna build it of them and hardworking excuse for whatever. You're gonna, oh yeah, well, you know, she's a party girl or something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you're basically gonna be stereotyped based on things other than work.
Yes, thank you for that. So a lot of complications about presentation, and it seems to put on individuals to maintain a certain or a certain demeanor, always be available. I had a friend who is in the military. He says that, you know, he's expected to answer the phone at all hours because he's something, and he's connected to an individual, and you you don't really have a private space in the same way as you would have had previously. Now with communication tools, Kristen, did you have a point to add? I see your mic's off. No. All right. What about from another group? What did you make of the phone and issues with respect to use of technology and social media?
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Christian.
So one of the things I got from it was that it would, compared to face-to-face, it would have some individuals that would be more confident and have more power through body language and actually projecting the voice and meeting with. But compared to online, they will feel closed, then they won't have much power to be able to express themselves more, because it'll mainly be doing face calls or through emails. They won't get their point across as they would have liked. Kind of affects their progress in terms of communication in that aspect.
Yeah. The email, for example, you express it in a certain way that might be perhaps more formal because it's a written communication than opposed to a call where you.
Yes. Because if you're sending, be sure that it needs to be in a certain way, in a certain format, a style, across as have double meaning or as mean, or it'll be easy and know that it's like official. Some emails that are legit, but it not come as legit.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, using emojis to help express tone. Up doing that on phone when I'm WhatsApp. I sometimes want to make sure it's received in a and not doesn't come across too blunt in response.
I personally be getting emojis, so I'll actually know what they mean. If I get in a message, it could mean that they're either angry or just making a joke. If emoji with the smiley face, I'll know, oh, okay, it's a joke, and not like getting shouted at or anything.
Yeah.
Tone based on the email.
Yes. Communicating by less. I can't do anything. Sometimes I'm writing an email, not worry. When I'm writing an email, that someone that email, even if it's not intended for another, or I find myself just and you formal or whatever it might be. You experience that?
To me, it's more on the environment. I can get across clearly talking about the topic on take extra time to word and properly.
Yeah.
And I also need to be mindful of the kind of context. So I'll be more friendly, smiley, and actually get and they'll be able to understand, but need to put more emphasis so they'll actually and have to make sure not to do, as you said, too much informal with putting emojis or smiley faces and stuff like that.
Yes. All right, thank you, Christian. Thank you for that. Anyone else have any points that are different from those that came out? Oh, yes. Okay, so Rochelle is saying sometimes confusing, like the upside down smile. I actually use that sometimes. I'm not exactly sure what it's for. I use it to say it's funny, but maybe not funny. That, sometimes, if something's a little bit, sometimes send that one. I've also never understood the emoji with the stretched mouth. I don't know. I use that, but I'm not sure what other people use it for.
Okay, the upside down one. But I think like that one, it's just like an uncomfortable grin, I guess, along the lines of a cringe. Something that I found interesting was like different cultures. Like a lot of the French people, even like some of my French coworkers before, they would use a wink face. I'm like,
okay,
what is this? Why are they winking this? And then I realized like it's just a way. There's nothing more.
Is it a kind of inside joke, the wink?
No, yeah, like I suppose, yeah, I guess, or like almost inside joke, but even more casual and less bounded than that.
I see. Christian thought the stretch mouth was a yikes. It's like, oh my goodness, like something odd as expect it. I also used to use the thinking I was being funny. It's like a wild joke, and someone told me off now using emojis. So it's definitely not like clear cut to me exactly what things mean. kind of hope that people understand what it is that you're going for. But I do think sometimes in my tone, but as I say, in email, I'm not so comfortable using them because I think it just, email for me is a bit more formal. You can conversation and know whether you're supposed to say bye or not, and the conversation just kind of is there, but there's no end. Does any, you're not, do you know how to end the conversation on WhatsApp?
I don't. You just leave it.
I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. I would just leave it. I would also just start the conversation. Like, I'm trying to be better at, hey, good morning, and then get into the conversation. But I would be like 2 a.m. and I'd be like, oh, I forgot to tell someone so this, and I would just rattle off. And then I would just leave. And like, because to me, it's like when I get the message, I get the message. When you get the message, you get the message. When you feel to reply, you reply. When I feel to reply, I'll reply. If it's urgent, we'll call each other.
I think with electronic communication though, and politeness theory tells us something about saving face, in that when someone writes to you, you kind of feel obliged to write back, especially on WhatsApp, if they've seen the 2 ticks and seen that you've looked at it and not said anything. I mean, I always feel I have to say something.
Yeah, I used to be like that, but in an effort to manage my anxiety, I've let it go, and I am not obliged to, I am no longer obliged to respond to emails. I mean, obviously, I'm professional about it, so I know I have to reply to certain things, and I know in terms of urgency, I have to reply right away. But I have gone beyond being stressed out about I have WhatsApp messages waiting for me. When I'm not in a frame, I'm driving, I'm whatever. Nope. When I am focused and I can give you my full attention, I will read, and well, I might have read it, but I'm not ready to respond yet because I have to find out something or whatever. And I'm not going to be stressed about, I'll just respond when I'm ready so you can get a better answer from me.
Right. I see Saleh saying he shares.
Yeah, I wasn't always like that though. It took some work.
Right. Have technologies and different kinds of platforms create ways of communicating. Quite interesting. I'm just going to X that. Oh no, sorry, I thought I was going to move the chat. All right. Next 10 minutes, and then we'll a few more slides. But at this point, we have covered the fact that there can be bad apples, as meaning bad individuals who negatively seek and have a mischievous or intent with people. Sometimes people accident, they don't mean to be rude. I think we've also covered the bad barrels, meaning that social media sometimes creates this, it allows for a negativity or a toxicity, and people kind of fall into line. Sometimes people comment on comments and just go along with the prevailing idea, even if it's not something they in another part of their life.
Sorry, just what you're explaining, could that be related to, I don't know if you see the what's going on with the funeral and the guy was on a chair. He's dead, but he's on the chair.
Know the story, Justin. Tell me about it.
Well, okay. So it's at a funeral, like I think it was this week or something like that. And the funeral literally had him on a chair, like it was a van kind of thing, but they had him on a chair. And when I believe it was church, they literally had him outside on the chair, like he literally sitting up chair while they inside in the funeral. And when people posted it on social media, it had a lot of toxic comments and other people laughing about the whole situation.
Hold on, the person in the chair was the deceased.
Yeah, he's dead. But he was they put him on a chair upright.
Was that his wishes or the family's wishes?
I don't know the whole story because I only saw it. Like people were just retweeting it and giving some kind of,
Okay, somebody has the
died. I read it in the paper. His father died, and he died at this and was but the son wanted to attend something like that. So inside the church, so they had to put him outside to sit down. So yeah, it was
right. And thanks to we know all about. But what was your question, Justin? What
I was just asking of social media and how people was just retweeting the toxic comments, basically, if that was applying to like how people in professional or like in like not polite about, you know, posts on there where
correctly. I mean, I think obviously we have, you know, different perspectives in terms of being professional and unprofessional.
Yeah.
Although what you're saying, the continuing of toxic comments, kind of, it was a joke to some people.
Yeah, yeah.
To other people just kind of lumped on their comments, and it just, so even if they wouldn't have thought that, if they'd thought about it in more detail, they might not have responded in that
Yeah.
way.
Because like
Yeah.
even like me, even like I mean I didn't know the whole story, man. I guess a lot of people didn't as well. So I mean people continuously just made jokes about it, even though they didn't know the wishes basically of the family.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, as you're saying, as you're telling the story, you know, the kind of, I think instinctive response is to be quite shocked at it just sounds, you know, normal situation. So, you know, you're either a reflective person and think, oh, well, I wonder what that's about, or instinctively you laugh about it and then think about it afterwards. But if you add a comment and it starts commented on, then obviously, you know, that's something that can happen with social media, which wouldn't have happened without the availability of those platforms. So definitely the global reach is part of the issue. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, let me just go back to sharing my screen. I just want to take 10 minutes, and then I know you may have questions with respect to
Well, while you're sharing your screen, in terms of respect, I think, first of all, if I am deceased and someone takes a picture of me and shares it, I will come back and haunt them to the rest of their days. I think that if the person is deceased, no one should have their camera out. And the only thing that makes it worse than taking a picture of someone that is deceased is sharing it and resharing it. So when we come across these horrible videos or pictures of people that are mangled and or whatever, they have a brother, they have a sister, they have a mother, or they have, and I would not want my family member's deceased photo shared, and I wouldn't want to be shared, and people are out there passing it on and forwarding it and sharing it, which is worse than the actual picture. And I blame Ian Allen for that. I blame Ian Allen for that. Go ahead.
But Miss, they wanna the area, so people who would, I mean, it's I don't know. So just if you're sitting down in the car and you see in this down there and you know he that would be weird. So they would take out a picture. But then I guess the meme culture with they will just start creating memes now.
They literally put the hurts in a way that is like they take off the top. So it's just him standing up, sitting down on the chair as a tallest chair. So they could see they take off the whole glass top and whatever because it usually look. And they just put in the back, holding the chair, I guess. Or holding him, something like that. I don't know, playing dancehall. I believe it was dancehall, but it was TikTok, so I believe they just had the audio and playing.
Yeah, so in a way they kind of look for the comments that people giving them now. I don't know.
Yeah. That was too far. That was too far.
I think it was like more like spectacle, like they wanted to put on a show for the funeral, and they drove him around the savannah and thing. But I also agree with what. Yeah, can you imagine being in the car and seeing that faucet? Anyway,
I would have crashed. I would have crashed for sure.
Same. like if it's under any other circumstances, especially when it's graphic, taking pictures and sharing it in WhatsApp groups. Oh,
yeah.
Saying that we think it, the one thing, but obviously taking a picture and sharing it on social media, puts it in a whole different context, and that's the bit that we find inappropriate. Even if we are a little bit squeamish about, the whole thing of seeing somebody propped up on a chair, deceased. Are we making that distinction? Because I think, that's.
I mean, if you're deceased, no one wants their picture taken without them knowing as well, for the most part, right? And I feel, especially if you're in some sort of situation or scenario, or you don't like how you look that day, you don't want anybody to take a picture, especially if you don't know that they're taking your picture. And I feel like when you're deceased, if you had a say, you would say, don't take my picture. I'm pretty sure it's like, except maybe for the guy and the situation. But when in doubt, don't take the picture. The person is deceased or suspected deceased. No, that should be like just a rule. Like if you do that, you should just go up in flames. Like no.
Yeah.
No.
A few people are saying they found it disturbing. Christian was uncomfortable, even seeing the picture. And Mika is asking, what about the newspapers and their responsibilities in terms of sharing and communicating?
Because I think Ian Allen opened that door. It was the girl that was being raped, like what the hell? And then I think that was one of the first things. And then he started showing pictures of deceased people. And then all of a sudden, a deceased body can be on our front pages. Like, no.
Yeah. It really is cutting quite close to the bone and, what is socially acceptable. It does, it really does push it out.
Like who would stand up and argue that it's socially acceptable to put my father's dead body or my brother's dead body on the front page, regardless of the circumstances?
I think the argument would be, well, you did this public spectacle with an expectation that it was going to be on display for someone. The idea was that it was on display, and obviously it's in the newspapers because, and people are stunned by it. Should it have been allowed? What was the motivation? Is it socially acceptable? Children would have seen it. Now it's being spread further. It could have shocked people while they were driving, as you're saying. So in the past, because of that, but what is right is a big question. All right, just moving on a little bit for the last few minutes. So I think I've two parts of that square that I was talking about. The last two parts are about social media self-perpetuating in terms of likes and kind of maintaining its value in that way. And then the point that was made in this entry, A Social Dilemma, by Jaron, and that was that we are actually the product in a social media interaction. But let me just get to that. Sorry, because I'm watching the time. All right, so how much time do we as individuals? Do you have any ideas how much time you spend and whether you feel comfortable with?
I had an app on my phone that told me how much time I spent. I was not comfortable with how much time I was spending, so I deleted the app.
Oh, really? Yeah. It can be quite for my so average per day. If I emails and start to get into social media, and that becomes, you know, part of when I feel something. Yeah, 45, right, exactly, and that's just one of the apps. How much time do you think spends online? I actually have some data for you. What do people think? The average American.
Can we answer?
Answer.
It's like
Yeah. Sorry.
Hold on, Christian, you think someone spends 8 hours every day online?
Yes.
Yes.
So they, that's their whole working day or the whole day, right? I mean,
everything was
so it have TikTok. You say in American, right? It have TikTok, WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and plus it have gamers like Twitch.
TikTok alone, especially most Americans,
TikTok alone is like
a lot of people in America doing TikTok and stuff, and they spend like about hours learning the dance or whatever they want to post it. It's a lot of hours they spend on TikTok.
Twitch and Discord. Twitch and Discord is where mainly people let's go on to. So all that could come in and add up to around like 6 to 8 hours a day.
I feel like for the average, it kind of balances out because there's so many Americans who are probably not even spending an hour. So I feel like those extremes kind of bring down the average. Like definitely, I could imagine people spending like 8 hours. Like it's easy, an hour a day.
Yeah, I like how you brought research methods into that, Rochelle. But also remember, like honestly, you wake up, you roll over, you're on your phone. And it's not 8 hours consecutively, right? It's, you know.
Yeah, it's spaced up because you had a beard, you had to brush your teeth. But you eat and you're on your phone. You eat and you're on your phone. You wake up, you're on your phone. You're in the bathroom, you're on your phone. You're walking, you're on your phone. Not me, but some people.
Some other people, clearly.
Yes.
Right.
And then you know their ritual so well.
No comment.
Yeah. Well, here's the data that I got. This is from a 2018 survey, and it's 23.6 hours online.
I feel like that's a lie.
You think that's a lie? It's too little?
No, honestly, I feel like it's way more. It should be way more than that, but that's just my opinion.
So the 23 is weekly.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's like just over 3 hours a day on average.
Right.
The maths low-key, not maths for me, but okay.
Really? Well, maybe in Trinidad and Tobago it's more then. Maybe that's the point we're trying to make.
I mean,
good point.
I guess I just looking at it from this year perspective as everything was online too. And TikTok became the biggest thing and this year alone.
Right.
So I guess that the stats will be much different now compared to 2018.
Well, culturally, like us, every year parents basically behind your back, clean the house, wash up wares, do clean the stove, go and cook. clean the fridge after I wash the wares, sweep up, go feed the dog, all that kind of things. You can be going on online media.
Are you
doing all that.
but if you're listening to our podcast while you're doing all those things,
oh yeah,
technically you're online.
True. I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
9 hours seems, yeah. Rachel said 9 hours.
Wow. Some years ago, I was talking to a class of first-year medical students, and I asked them what their hobbies were. It was just a general discussion, and one of them said internet. So that actually was their label for the hobby, just internet. So I guess browsing is the hobby. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I guess I don't even know, TikTok wasn't around or big then. It was a couple of years ago. Which I found really interesting because I didn't know exactly what they meant when they said internet. I was like, doing what? But I think it is the whole browsing thing that becomes the hobby. It was interesting.
Yes, sir. Like, okay, I'm guilty of this, but like, I think when the lockdown was like real strict and stuff, I mean, literally couldn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, nowhere. My friends and I, like, when the game, I don't know if you know the game Among Us, like when it came out, me and my friends was on Discord for like 6 hours playing the game.
Right. I don't know that. I mean, I feel like you have a legitimate, kind of excuse during those stressful times when lockdown first happened. I think there are always going to be times where we're more connected than others, but I have been starting to monitor my own online usage because I feel like I need more fresh air, to be honest, and to just get outside more. So it does worry me. And when I started to check last night, various apps, I thought, no, I can't even put those images. I did some more searching on this particular bit of research, and I found out this. The most popular sites, let me see if I can show you. This was the US adults who use different platforms. YouTube was absolutely kind of at the top. And I guess, being an adult population, that says something about that particular group. Whereas, as you're saying, younger people might be using TikTok and other things, I guess. Okay, all right. And then about companies and using social media, I found this out, and Greer can attest to this. She was saying something about this this very point, that social media is used for a whole host of different reasons, including branding, looking for new customers, product, and all of that kind of thing. Whereas initially it was used to just reach out. So this idea about creating a brand online means that organizations are actually seeking to just keep their image out there. So even if you're not going to buy something from them, when you, kind of think of some of these things that I put on the right, if I say soft drink, what do you think of? What do people think? Let's do a word association.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Exactly. That was the first one that came to mind. What about biscuit?
Who?
The second word, biscuit.
Cracks.
Right.
Chicken.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. What about in terms of reputation as well? When someone says police, what's the association you get?
Disorder.
Below.
But I mean, in terms of reputation, good or bad?
Bad.
Both?
Sorry, Bowen.
Improving or still as bad as ever? I was going to put Coast Guard, but I thought I'd better not do that because I know Bowen might be in the room.
Bad as ever.
What about beach? If someone says beach, which beach do you think of? Or beaches?
Las Cuevas.
Really? Okay.
Very cool.
Okay.
I mean,
Way
the first thing
too
off
much
of their head is
people.
maracas, but like, Nah.
You know what came to mind? I was thinking Maracas or Pigeon Point. Those are the two. It's really interesting how identity works and communication works to kind of cement things in our minds so they almost become routinized, you know. And I think most people with the soft drink, even if you don't really drink Coke, and I don't particularly like it, you know, you just think Coca-Cola. That's one of the first things that comes to mind, and that's the power of the branding. What were you gonna? What have been your experiences, Greer, of social media and this list here that's presented in terms of whether you think these are the priorities?
Well, I was just thinking, like, it's listening to us now, so we're going to see something that says Coke or something on our social media afterwards. I mean, you do tend to, even if Coke is not your favorite, I mean, we see, you know, Coca-Cola made a point a long time ago that you will see it at least once a day, whether it's on television or walking down the street, you'll see their brand. So it is top of mind. And therefore, when you hear soft drink, it is the first one you talk about. But in terms of social media, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, even on social media, it pops up. It's in our conversations because it is top of mind. The top of mind brands will always be the top of mind brands. Like, it's really hard to infiltrate that if you're a newcomer. You have to come real good and innovate, you know, really well. And I think that's why too, marketing and communication moves towards targeting the innovators that are going to talk about the topic and get other people to talk about the topic. Because as long as we talk about the topic, it will appear, you know, more and more in our feed. And that's kind of how that circle works.
Yes, exactly. I did have a video that I wanted to show us, but I feel like we've pretty much run out of time. But let me just show you the slide so you can look it up in your own time, because I find it really interesting. I would love for people in their own time to check out this particular speaker. His name's Jaron Lanier, and he was the founder of virtual reality. And he essentially talks about social media and how it works in that particular documentary. And I pulled apart his argument just to get it down in text. And this is essentially it. He says this. He says, let me close these boxes. He says, oops, sorry. This is his central argument, that we are each using social media platforms for free. The platforms charge the clients to advertise. So all of the people, Nike and Coca-Cola and, you know, all the brands that want to advertise. So they're creating a market space. Algorithms are designed to keep us seeing particular content. We get this kind of echo chamber, and we get fed back things. The algorithm gives us kind of videos that it thinks we like, and we keep seeing the same thing. Therefore, he says that we as the users are the actual product for the advertisers. So we have become the products as a result of the algorithm seeking to make the use of platforms and keep us on the platforms for longer and longer. And it, you know, they're designed in a way to become addictive and take our time and keep us completely absorbed in that kind of content. And so we develop these routines where we actually wake up in the morning, check social media, scroll through, and as various people are saying, while you're brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom, doing chores, you're constantly getting content fed to you. And I found that all really frightening. And he says basically you should stop using social media or close down accounts, because we will have a much better life if we get away from it. So I'm not going to show us this video, but this is one about that talks about the addiction. And I have this final question about ethical use of social media and whether or not, if you're an advisor to, I don't know, government or some organization thinking about the future, how would you help manage the future in terms of social media use? Where would the emphasis be? Would it be on policy to curb people from putting out content? Would it be to educate individuals to become media literate so they understand how much time they're spending? Or would it be somewhere else? And who should monitor that? Because I think we're right in the throes of that discussion, and we haven't really come to any firm conclusions as to what we should do about it. We are seeing some of the problems though, with kids getting addicted and certain kinds of representation on social media, and organizations are having to you know, kind of navigate the landscape. They want to promote themselves, but hopefully if they're ethical, won't want to just kind of, you know, occupy all our mental space so that we're not giving time to anything else. And I'm just going to check the chat. Okay, so people are now starting to leave, and I wanted to thank everyone for attending this lecture and being part of the discussion. Perhaps we can stop recording, Greer, if that's okay.